All right, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Ubuntu Community Q&A. We do these every Tuesday at more or less the same time. It's shifted around a little bit because half the world is going into daylight savings time and half the world is not there yet. But I'm glad to see everybody in the IRC channel. If you are not there, go to ubuntuonair.com and you will see an IRC channel right below the video. If you have your own IRC client, you can join us on Freenode. The channel is #ubuntu-on-air. That's where we're going to be looking for all of your questions. Start them with the word question in all capital letters, and both Alan and I will get a nice highlight on that so that we don't miss them. You can ask us any questions you like. Obviously, we would prefer them to be Ubuntu related in some way. We don't generally do tech support here. We will ask you to file a bug or email a mailing list, but any other kinds of questions, feel free to ask. All right, and we're going to start off with some updates, but you can go ahead and start putting questions in anytime you like, and we will go through them one at a time once we get started on those. So the first big announcement is we have the Ubuntu Online Summit coming up. It is now on summit.ubuntu.com. If you go there and you go to UOS-1611, you can start proposing talks there. So if you have something that you want to talk about, presentation you want to give, demo of some software you've written, anything like that, the schedule is wide open right now, so you can start proposing those and get them in now. We have 4 tracks. We have Community, Core, Cloud, and Convergence, and each of those has track leads on it. So when you submit your presentation proposal, you can talk to those track leads if you need it scheduled on a certain day or a certain time. The actual event is going to be November 15th and 16th, I believe. Let me check. Yes, November 15th and 16th is going to be the event. They're going to be all hangouts like this one. There'll be an IRC channel for each of the rooms, so very similar format to this. You can screen share if you've got a slide deck or something you want to show off, and then watch for questions in the IRC channel. I encourage everybody to go to that. There's a lot of good material on each of these every time we do, and it really helps the presenters to see a lot of friendly faces there.
After that, we've got UbuCon, which is coming up in end of November, November 18, 19, 20. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's in Essen in Germany. And it's a community managed, community organized Ubuntu conference. There'll be loads of talks throughout the Saturday and Sunday. The Friday is more of a meeting up and social meet and greet type thing. So you could just arrive for the Saturday, Sunday, or one day, or all 3. I think most of us are going to be there all 3 days. We're going to socialize on the Friday night and then come along to Saturday, Sunday, hear lots of talks from interesting people who are either in the community or people who work for Canonical, and from a diverse range of topics, and then socialize in the evening as well. And that's 18, 19, 20, I think, of November.
Yes, so the weekend right after Online Summit. So that's going to be a busy week for us. And Jane Silber, the CEO of Canonical, is going to be giving a keynote at the UbuCon.
Yep, and another thing that is kind of a bit more urgent than those 2, but it's kind of sprung on us recently, is Google have an event called Google Code-In, which starts in December and runs through the beginning of next year. And it's an opportunity for students to take up small tasks on open source projects, and it encourages people to get involved in open source projects. We did this last year and had some success with people getting involved and contributing to a whole load of parts of Ubuntu. There's a community team who are getting together to organize Google Code-In for 2016. So that starts in December, but the application needs to be in by November the 3rd, and it's the 1st today. So there's not long left to get the application in if they get enough tasks to do. If you're in the Ubuntu project and there are tasks you think would be good to go on the list for participants to contribute to, and these could be tasks that take 20 minutes, or they could take 2-3 hours or something like that. So not necessarily implementing huge features, but many individual little tasks that could be done over a period of time. And there need to be a lot of tasks because a lot of people get involved in this if we're accepted into Google Coding. There's a wiki page where you can contribute to this, and that is wiki.ubuntu.com/Google Code in 2016, with G, C, and I being in uppercase, Google Code in 2016. You should find that on the Ubuntu wiki. It's if you just go to the recent pages, you'll find recent changes. You should find it's one of the most recent changed pages.
And this is being spearheaded by some Ubuntu community folks. So anything you can do to help them would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely, it's quite a commitment, and like from last year, we know you need a huge number of tasks. You know, they could be individual translation tasks, or they could be bugs that need fixing. They could be bite-sized bugs. They could be implementation of small features. But bear in mind, many of the people, the people getting involved in this are school to college age children, or young adults rather. So they need to be able to get bootstrapped and up and running with whatever the task is. So we need to provide documentation for how they can do that. It was quite a lot of work to get that put together.
It is a great way to get your project out there in front of a bunch of people, though, especially if you've got some bite-sized tasks already lined up. It's a great way to get contributors.
And the motivation, there's multiple motivations for this. For the students, obviously, they get to participate in large projects and they get some experience. The projects benefit because they get these contributions, and some of the people stick around and continue to contribute after the coding finishes next year. But also there are prizes for the best contributors, for some definition of best. And those people get rewarded with prizes which are provided by Google. And we also have things like trips out to the Google campus, but that's for the people who are contributing. I think there's a couple of selected mentors get to go as well, and that's what happened last year anyway.
All right, and one last update. If anybody's using PostgreSQL, there's a company called Command Prompt who supports that, and they've just published a bunch of snaps in the Snap Store that make it easier than ever to get Postgres running on your box, either on your local machine to get the command line tools, or the server itself if you're running it in the cloud somewhere. There was also a game I just saw, came across the Snapcraft mailing list, new Snap game for symmetry puzzles or something like that. I haven't checked it out yet, but if you're on the Snapcraft mailing list, you'll get all of these updates as they come in to see what cool new stuff is available to you.
I think the puzzles was a click, actually. I think that was a click that went on the phone store.
No, it's on Snap. It's
Simon puzzles. I think
Sim Group Mad, something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's in the Snap Store.
Cool. Excellent. I'll look at that later. Okay, should we start with some of the questions?
Yes.
Flooding in already. Remember to get your questions in. Prefix it with questions so we don't miss it, and get them in early because there's a couple of minutes delay between stuff coming out of our mouths entering your ears.
Right. So, we also have no idea when we're going to run out of time for questions, so if you wait until later in the show, we might already have a big queue that we're going through and we won't make it to yours. So if you want an answer, don't wait.
Right. Go for it. Let's start with the first one.
All right. The first one's from Chloe, our favorite fan. She asks, I just had my din-dins, which leads me to ask, what are you or have you had for your din-dins? And I think she asked that just to make me say din-dins on air.
Okay. I haven't had them yet. It's too early.
Yeah, I haven't either. It's lunchtime for me now, and I have no idea what I'm going to have for lunch. I did have some excellent pho last night for dinner, which is delicious.
Cool. Okay. Next real question is from WLBI. which says, what are the advantages of Snap packages compared to Flatpak and App Image? Ooh, this is a good one. So it's tricky because I don't use Flatpak or App Image, but from my perception, so I'm not an expert on those two technologies. I know a bit about them, so I think I would be right in saying one of the advantages that Snaps have is confinement, so that one application can't stomp all over another application's files. As far as I'm aware, I don't believe Flatpak and App Image have that. If they do, I'm sorry, I'm not besmirching their good name, but I believe Snaps have that and they don't.
I believe it is optional for both. So if the developer chooses to confine their app, they can.
Okay. Another thing that I think sets Snaps aside is the Snap Store and the resultant automatic updates. So the fact that a developer can push a snap into the Snappy Store and can update that anytime they like, and the store automatically updates users' machines, so users are always running the latest version that the developer puts out. I think there's plans for Flatpak to have a store. I don't think App Image has any concept of a store. So those are just like two that I can think of off the top of my head.
Right. Updates is a big one that Snaps have over App Image. The normal way of getting an app image is just downloading the file and changing it to be executable and launching it. So you're responsible for finding updates and downloading new versions of that. I think they've got a tool that will help that. I've never tried it. But having a centralized store is really nice because that really helps people find your applications. They don't have to already know about it and where it is to get it. So, for example, if you type snap find game, you'll get a listing of games. So even if you don't know what you're looking for, if you want to just browse, you can do it that way.
Right, and it's hooked up to the Software Center application as well, so you don't have to use the command line. You can search for stuff using the GUI if you want to as well.
Right.
Also, revert is another, being able to revert an update in Snaps. I don't know if the others have that, but that seems quite a useful feature to be able to roll back to a previous release and roll back to a previous snapshot of the data as well, optionally as well. It's quite a good thing that Snaps have. And there's another one I was just about to mention, I can't remember what it was. Oh yes, Delta updates, which we don't have yet, but are coming. And I saw a demo of it a couple of weeks ago, and it looks awesome, being able to only download deltas of applications rather than downloading a whole update. So if you get an update to LibreOffice, for example, you don't end up downloading all of LibreOffice, you only download a little part of it. Oh, another one, the fact that snaps are actually SquashFS files and not unpacked on your file system is quite neat, because it means that the application is all nice and tidy, and you're actually well, there's some argument that would say that snaps contain too much stuff because we bundle things in with it. The flip side of that is it's all compressed anyway, so the amount of data that you actually read off disk is potentially less because it's decompressed on the fly. It doesn't get decompressed at install, it's decompressed at the fly, on the fly actually.
Right. There have been a few apps where the snap package is actually smaller than the deb package, even though it's including all of its dependencies because of that compression.
Cool. I think that's enough for now, isn't it?
I would also say that conceptually snaps are pretty simple compared to Flatpak especially. They're much simpler. They run just like a regular app. They're not treated that much differently. They're not tricked into thinking they're running somewhere they're not.
Right. So long as your application is relocatable, it should be okay.
Right.
Okay. Are we done with those? So we move on to the next question.
One other thing I wanted to throw out there: if you're a developer of an application, having it in the store gives you some nice statistics too, so you can see how many people are using your app, what countries they're using it from. If you have a new release, you can see how quickly it's being adopted. Some really useful bits of knowledge that a developer cares about.
Okay, if you're going to do that, I'll do one more as well. It's also the opportunity to have paid apps. So that's not quite landed yet, but it's landing very, very soon. soon you'll be able to purchase an application. If a developer makes a paid version available, you could purchase it through Snaps and potentially install it on as many machines as you have a license for, and that's quite cool. A bit like Steam. You buy it once and then you install it wherever you've got the allowance to do that.
Right. All right. The next question is from Chloe. Says it's just been Halloween. Did you dress up for Halloween? And if so, what did you dress up as? So I did not dress up. I wore a Batman shirt, but I'm liable to do that any day, not just on Halloween. I did have a bit of fun with my pumpkin this year. We broke out the Arduino, and the kids and I wired up a few different colored LEDs to the Arduino and set it up to randomly fade them on and off. So, it fade between red, yellow, green, and blue, and it looked really neat. It was pretty simple to do, too. So I think next year we're going to find a way to up the ante on creative pumpkin programming.
So I generally didn't dress up because I fall into two camps. One is being old, and the second one is being British. And because I'm both old and British, we don't do that. But we bought a big pile of sweets just in case people came along trick-or-treating, and we got one trick-or-treater, so I had lots of sweets to eat. So,
yeah, I live on a busy street. We don't usually get trick-or-treaters here, so my kids went to my in-laws' house and gave away candy there.
Nice. Okay, next one is from Chloe, which says, leads me to my next question. If Ubuntu was a Halloween monster, what Halloween monster would Ubuntu be? It would be
a werewolf.
I would say a zombie.
A zombie?
Because you can't kill it. A good kind of zombie.
A good kind of zombie.
Yeah.
You could go with the Frankenstein because it's made up of contributions from all over the place coming together to form a whole.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, this would be Mark. Mark would be Frankenstein, and Ubuntu would be Frankenstein's monster.
There you go.
Imagine Mark with the like power, lightning.
Yeah,
that fits. Yes, that one's better. Frankenstein.
So in 30 minutes, the headlines are going to be Alan Pope calls Ubuntu Mark's monster.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. What's next?
Chloe again, she's asking, did you get anything in the Steam Halloween sale?
I did buy a game yesterday, but it wasn't in the Halloween sale, I don't think, but it was in a discounted sale. It's a game that runs on Linux, and it's called The Curious Expedition. And it's excellent. The only reason I knew of it was because a friend of mine posted on Twitter that his likeness had been included in the game, and I'd not heard of the game before, so I clicked on it. Turns out there was a Linux version, and it wasn't very expensive, so I bought it. And I played it last night, and it was really good.
Oh, was this the one where Fabian's like this pixel character?
Yes, yeah. It's quite cool. So, I'm going to play some more of that later.
All right. Moving off the Halloween-related questions, Caramelian is asking, what are the most annoying bugs on your Ubuntu phone? So, as a Nexus 4 owner, the most annoying one for me has always been GPS. There's something about the Nexus 4 GPS that just makes it horribly unreliable. So,
the main bug that bites me more often than anything else, I use on the Pro 5, there's on all of the devices, there's an app called Podbird. And I love Podbird. I consume all my podcasts through Podbird on the Pro 5. And it has a glitchy bug where it sometimes pauses and sometimes just stops playing audio. And I don't quite understand why it is. And I don't know whether it's a platform bug or a Podbird bug. But I know the developers of Podbird are working on an update to the app that they're going to push out soon. So I'm hoping it's fixed in that one, and if it isn't, then I'll do some debugging and I'll do a bug report and all that kind of stuff.
So I thought mine was doing that too. I would listen to it in the car all the time, and driving around it would just randomly stop. And what I figured out was happening was I would be streaming it over mobile data, and then I would drive past like a McDonald's or something where I've auto-connected to their Wi-Fi before, and it will try to auto-connect to the Wi-Fi, and that will make Podbird try and switch over, and that would interrupt the streaming playback.
So it could be related, but probably not for me because I'm solidly sat on Wi-Fi at home. But I will find a bug, I promise. And I love the app, and we'll continue using it anyway. WLB. Oh no, we've already done that question, so we'll move on.
Yes.
Dragonbite asks, "What's the most annoying question you get here?" Well, ironically, the most annoying question is, "What's the most annoying question you get?" Well done, Dragonbite.
We always get questions about when is the next device coming out, or what's the secret device you're working on, and we always have to answer the same thing every week, that we don't do product announcements here.
Yeah.
I find that particularly annoying because I would love to be able to make product announcements here.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to get reach into my bag and pull out a phone and go, "It's this is the thing," but that would jeopardize my employment opportunities.
Yes.
And potentially it would. So what you got to think is, if we did do that, what would be the impact of us doing that? And think about the fact that it's a leak, and we're taking away from the marketing potential that the partner might have, and that they might have organized a big splash with some reporters to turn up to an event, and then someone leaks it via some other site, and that kind of upsets partners. So there's some very good sensible reasons why we don't do it, but the big overriding one is we don't know. So that's the main reason we don't.
That's partly why it's an annoying question.
Yeah, it's like we don't know the answer. Yeah.
Questions about trees and sandwiches, though, are a close runner-up to that.
Trees and all sandwiches, yeah.
Yes.
So, Chloe asks, "The next milestone only currently has 29 bugs. Usually there's over 100. Will there be a lot of bugs updated to fix the next OTA, or will it mostly stay as it is?" So, yeah, it's no secret that for the last few months, year or so, a lot of the company have been heavily working on the migration to Snaps, both on the desktop, for server, IoT, and for the phone. So that's kind of taken away some of the resources that we're working on bugs. So there may be a reduced number of bugs that are fixed in OTA 14 compared to some of the previous OTAs. Yeah, and that's unfortunate, but that's basically a resource limitation.
Not only that, but the current phone images are based on Ubuntu 15.04 with an added PPA on them. So that's something we really want to get away from. People who have been working on the core parts of the phone are now working on Snappy and porting all the phone stuff over to a 16.04 base. So I would imagine that most of the stuff going into the phone images now are going to be fixes and not so much new features. All the new work, all the stuff that's going to be the future of the phone platform is going to be built on Snaps and an LTS base.
Yep.
So just because there's not a lot of work going into the next OTA doesn't mean that there's not a lot of work going into all of the core stuff on the phone. It just means that it's going into a different development path that's not going to be in the next OTA.
Yes, indeed. What's next? Chloe asks, "Alan, that's a nice different background. Where you been?" So you can probably, I don't know if you can make out the pictures that are behind me. They are owls. I'm not at home at the moment because we're having some work done on my house. I'm actually at my mother-in-law's house, and she likes owls. Just checking she can't hear me say bad things about owls. But yes, that's why I have a different background. I'm traveling to different people's houses at the moment, staying away from home while the work is being done.
He's a nomad now.
Yes. And there are a lot of owls all around the room looking at me while I'm working. There's so many of them.
Does she have a cat? We missed seeing the cat walk across
Yeah.
the front of the video camera.
She does have a cat. She's called Tilly, and she's a beautiful grey cat, but she hates me. So you won't see the cat.
All right. The next question is from Seb. It's also for you. He wants to know what you think about the Linux Voice and Linux Magazine merge.
So yeah, Linux Voice was a crowd-funded magazine, and they ran for 3 years as an independent crowd-funded magazine, and they recently announced that they're merging with another magazine. They did a really brilliant job, but unfortunately, it just profitable enough for them to run it as a separate magazine. So they're merging with Linux Magazine. I think it's great. My first issue of Linux Magazine arrived in the post today. So I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I will do. So it's good to see that the 4 guys who are working on it, Mike, Ben, Andrew, and Graham, are still going to continue working on it, but it's going to be part of another magazine. Brilliant. It's great. So yeah, good news.
Yeah. Print is hard. The fact that they went as long as they did is kind of amazing.
I haven't. I subscribed. I backed the Kickstarter or Indiegogo, I think it was. I was actually the very last person to back the Indiegogo, and before they closed it, and I backed it. I renewed my subscription, so I actually have 3 years of the magazine. So because I read the PDF, I get the print subscription through the post. I never actually opened the print subscription, so I've got 3 years of magazines on a shelf still in their wrapping that I've never actually opened.
Keep them in there; they're collectibles now.
That's my retirement fund.
That and Beanie Babies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh god. Right, let's move on. Aris
All right.
Belander says, I read in the comments section of OMG Ubuntu that Ubuntu Core 16 is in release candidate 2. Does that mean an Ubuntu device's image based on Snappy is imminent?
Not for like phone and tablet devices. Ubuntu Core is for IoT devices and cloud stuff where you don't have a GUI on top of it. There is work going into making a snapified Ubuntu for devices, for desktops, and for phone and tablet, but that's not going to be ready for general consumption when Ubuntu Core 16 comes out.
Yeah, probably not this year, I wouldn't have thought. Probably, from the look of it, I don't think the phone will move to Snappy until early next year. I wouldn't have thought. That's just a guess.
There's quite a bit of work to do to transition it over to a Snappy base.
The Best asks, will the OTA updates for the phone and tablets also update my Unity 8 preview in Ubuntu 16.10? No. Ubuntu 16.10 is the traditional desktop based on Debian packages, so you'll just get your updates as normal through devs, but anything you install as snaps, because it also comes with snaps like 16.04, will get updated through the Snappy store. So devs and snaps will get updated that way. We don't do OTAs for desktop install.
Right. And since 16.10 is released now, you won't get updates to that except for like security fixes and stuff, unless you add a PPA to get newer packages, or if you update to the next release, the development release for 17.04. You will get newer versions of that, probably more often than OTAs go to the devices.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really interested in testing UTA, then you probably do want to enable that PPA, because then you'll get feature updates in 16.10 for the Unity 8 session. Because the archive is mostly frozen, as Mike said. It's going to be security updates and major bug fixes for the archive. So the PPA is probably the best thing if you want to play with Unity 8. The Best asks, how does the redesign of the scopes come along?
Have not heard anything about that. We had Thomas Voss on a few weeks ago, but he wasn't able to talk about that specifically. We have UOS coming up. We should try and get them on a session on that and maybe present the current status of things.
Yes, I agree. Seb asks for Popey again. Have you got an Ubuntu user subscription at all, by any chance, or thought about maybe getting? No, I never got one because it always felt like I was.
I have the T-shirt on right now.
Oh, you have the T-shirt.
Yes.
It always felt like it was mostly full of stuff I probably already knew. I prefer buying magazines that are from areas where I don't know. So I buy Linux Voice partly to support Linux Voice guys and partly because there's stuff in there about other distros and other technologies, whereas the Ubuntu stuff was mostly Ubuntu related stuff I already knew. That was my rationale for not getting a subscription for that.
It is hard when you're in the middle of it. And the problem with print is that everything gets delayed, and if things are updating quickly and you're keeping up with the news on a daily basis, then by the time somebody can write about it, print it, and mail it to you, you've known about whatever it is for weeks at least.
Yeah. The next question is from Caramelion.
Caramelion?
Yeah, that sounds better. Sorry to butcher your nick. The question is...
It's a SUSE user.
Which Ubuntu phones will not be updated to 1604? I don't know. I don't know which ones will be updated to 1604. I don't know which ones will not. If I had to guess, and this is a pure guess, I would suspect that the BQ ones, the original BQ devices, probably wouldn't. But that's just a guess. I don't know about the newer ones. I don't know about the X4 or the Pro 5 or any other devices that are in the works.
Yeah, the farther back you get, the older kernel we're going to be working with from the actual device manufacturer. So that's really going to make it difficult, I think, to get a 1604 based image running on some of these old devices if they can't provide us with a more up-to-date kernel.
Yeah, so the BQs are on 3.4, and the Meizu X4 is on 3.10
or something, I think.
Yeah.
Or no,
3.10.
I'm thinking Android.
Right. Anyway.
That'll be decided once we have a 16.04 image to start porting to devices.
Dragonbite asks, is the Linux vulnerability Dirty Cow patched in Ubuntu? If so, how long did it take from when it was made aware to the patch being pushed out? If not, is it still being worked on right now? So there's a CVE page where you can see a summary for any CVE, rather than using the marketing name like Dirty Cow. If you use the CVE name, so the 2016-4 digits, you search for that. There's an Ubuntu page which lists all the affected kernels and lists all the supported releases and whether they're affected or not in a little table, and tells you when whether they've been fixed or not. And the short answer is yes, they have been. I think the ones that haven't are a couple of the phone images. I think the Ubuntu Touch images might not have been updated. There are some that aren't affected by it and some that aren't updated, but that page is the best place to get the answer.
Right. So that page is ubuntu.com/USN for Ubuntu security notices, and they all get published there. The short answer, though, is, like I said, yes, it's been patched. Within hours, in fact, of the vulnerability being made known, we had a patch out for it.
Yeah, and if you were using the new Canonical Live patch, then you would have got that patch through the Canonical Live patch service as well. What's next?
All right. Micheller, I think, is asking, will Ubuntu Core and future Ubuntu Personal, will they follow the 6-month release? No, they will have a much faster release cycle, I believe. I think it's going to track more towards what we've done on the phone with more frequent updates. I don't know if it's going to be the 6-week updates that we've targeted for the phone or if it's going to be different. But I do believe it's going to be more often than 6 months.
Cool. WLBI asks, I'd like to join Ubuntu. Are there places to sleep? Hotel is expensive. So I know some people are staying in Airbnbs, which might be an option. I think there's a whole bunch of people staying in a house from the French loco. They've taken over a house. in Essen in Germany. I don't know. I haven't looked into all of the accommodation options.
There are also quite a few people who are sharing hotel rooms to split the cost. So if you've got some friends going, that's a good option for you.
Cool. Next question, Karen Leon again. What hardware is currently recommended for Mir and Unity 8? So if you have an Intel-based device, like an Intel-based laptop or a desktop that has an onboard Intel video card, then Unity 8 and Mir will work fine on that. It also works, I believe, on the Nouveau, the open source NVIDIA driver. I don't believe it yet works on the NVIDIA proprietary binary driver. I believe that's being worked on.
I think it will work on the open source AMD drivers also.
Oh, cool. Good. And it also works in KVM, the QEMU-based virtualization thing. And I think it also works in VMware Fusion, but it doesn't work in VirtualBox.
Right.
So there's your answer. It does work in Intel, open source, NVIDIA open source, AMD open source, KVM, QEMU, VMware Fusion, but not VirtualBox, not binary NVIDIA drivers.
All right, next question from Seb. How many UbuCons have there been now, and where? I don't know how many there have been. It depends on how far back you want to go. I know there's been an UbuCon at Scale, for example, for years and years and years. So there's
one LA in South America, and
so the one in California co-hosted with Scale. There's a standalone one that's been going on in South America that bounces from country to country there. The next one is going to be in Costa Rica, I believe. Then we've got UbuCon. We had UbuCons in Germany and in France, and now we've got this UbuCon Europe that's trying to bring in people from all over the continent. We've co-hosted UbuCons at the Southeast Linux Fest in the US, and also at FaucetCon, which is an open source convention here in Florida. And I think there have been some others in the US that co-hosted with various conferences.
Cool. Next question is from Dragonbite. Is there a Snapcraft Snappy GUI management, or how about Docker or Flatpak? I'm not quite sure what you mean by how about Docker or Flatpak, but so for managing your snaps, there is a few things you can do here. One is there is a tool called Snap Web. So if you have a Snappy enable system, like a 1604 or 1610 system, you install Snap Web from the store and point your browser at localhost :4200. There's a little authentication key dance you have to go through to secure it, and then you get a web page in which you can manage the installation of the snaps that are on your system and remove them and install new ones from the store. You can also, on a desktop, you can use GNOME software, the Ubuntu software tool, and there's another way.
Command line.
Yeah, command line. Yeah, he specifically said GUI,
yeah.
So command line is the main way. That's the one that's most well supported. But there is actually an API for Snappy. It's a REST API, so anyone can create their own front end to Snappy, which graphical front end. Someone could create a store written in Qt or written in some other toolkit, which does the calls under the covers to Snappy to actually do the installation of software and query the store and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, someone could create additional stores, maybe that fit with different desktop environments, for example.
If you're asking about Snapcraft itself, which is the tool for building snaps, there is a GUI that somebody's made that's a front end to that, and will let you manage all the Snapcraft steps and commands through a graphical interface.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. We've got 20 minutes left and a bunch of questions. Chloe asks, what app would you like to see snapped?
I would like to see Rambox snapped. I'm going to throw that out there because I'm selfish. Um, I'm using the app image of it right now to get the newest version, but it keeps prompting me to update to a newer version, and when I click the update button, it doesn't actually update it because it's an app image. So I would much rather have a snap that automatically gets updated. So if anybody wants to take that on or wants to poke the Rambox guys a little bit more for me, I will gladly talk all about it once I have a snap of it installed on a future Q&A.
So I would like to see something snapped. RetroPie or something like RetroPie, basically a bunch of emulators as snaps. MAME, the multiple arcade machine emulator, would be great to see as a snap. And any other emulators, like Spectrum emulators, all the kind of retro stuff that people like to play with. I'd like to see those as snaps because they're often updated quite a lot. The versions in the archive get stale and out of date, and some of the new versions like support more games or are faster or better graphics or whatever. So yeah, I'd like to see a bunch of emulators in the Snappy store myself.
I'd like to see stuff like Dropbox too. I know SyncThing is in a snap now, but something I can just drop on, a Raspberry Pi or something that's hooked up to an external hard drive, and suddenly I've got my own cloud backup stuff. So SyncThing and Nextcloud are there, but like Google Drive or Dropbox, that would be nice too.
Yeah. I'm going to skip some silly questions and go straight to Chloe, who asked Snap on the phone. I answered that already. That was
right. I think we
probably
covered that pretty well.
Early next year.
HUD, messaging framework, etc. update. The last one we had was when we had Thomas Voss on here, which you weren't around for that day, sadly, but I hope you did get a chance to go back and watch that video.
Joe 2016 asks, Ubuntu 16.04 and X99 motherboard for 6800K. I'm new, so I'm nervous to get a motherboard that won't work. What should I get?
Never heard of a motherboard not working.
Yeah, I would ask that kind of question somewhere like one of the PC hardware subreddits or something like that, or in Ubuntu maybe, where techie nerds hang out, where they have experience of modern hardware. Every computer I've got is over a year or more old, so I don't know. Generally, yeah, most modern motherboards perfectly fine with a relatively recent kernel, but I would check with one of the hardware subreddits or something like that.
Right. I haven't built a PC from parts in over 10 years. But back then, motherboards all just worked. There's BIOS and stuff that was standard. I know it's all UEFI now, so maybe it's not as easy as it used to be back in the day when I was young and dinosaurs roamed the earth. Cool.
Next question is Andrew Hazen. Hello, Andrew, who says, Canonical Live Patch is awesome. Yes, it is. For community members, there are 3 free licenses. If you want it on additional machines, the website states to buy Ubuntu Advantage. But from what I can see, to buy Ubuntu Advantage for desktop, you have to buy a minimum of 150 units if you go to buy.ubuntu.com. Do you think there should be an option to buy a single or a small pack of support packages so home users with more machines can have them all live patched? That's a good question, and I would recommend you direct that question at Dustin Kirkland, who has posted all the blog posts about Canonical Live Patch. He's got a blog post all about it, and that seems like the kind of question that a lot of people would probably wonder. So I think you should leave it as a comment on his blog post, because I don't know the answer anywhere.
It's all going to come down to, are there enough people who want this to make it something that's, sustainable for us to do?
Absolutely. Seb asks, we know you're an Ubuntu Pro 5 user quite a lot, and the impression you give us, but what about that Ubuntu tablet? How often do you actually tend to use it, and what for? So right now, because I've got work going on in my house and I move around a lot, I don't carry my tablet with me very much. So right now, I'm not using it much at all. Here's the short answer. Once the work on my house is finished, I'll have my office back and I'll have it set up, and I will use it more. But right now I just use it because I have my laptop and I have my phone with me, and that's all I carry. Ask me again in 3 months.
Seb is asking, the Nexus is good, but when will M. Hall get his first commercially available Ubuntu device? I wonder. I wonder that too. It will be when there is a commercially available Ubuntu device for sale in the US, or is at least guaranteed to work in the US. That's why I've stuck with the Nexus 4 for as long as I have, was because it will at least work here, even if it's not 4G capable. And before somebody says, yes, I know you can change the radio to support 4G, but it's terrible. I did that once, and it lasted for about a week before I had to undo it.
Chloe suggests you can make a phone announcement or make your own hardware company. How's that coming along?
Yes, I am $5 closer to having my own hardware company, so sometime in the next 10,000 years I should be able to get started.
Well, you did an Arduino over the weekend,
This is true.
A couple of steps from Arduino to making your own phone.
I'll make it the size of the original Motorola phones. Just stuff an Arduino and 20 AA batteries in there.
Next question from Chloe is, the PPA for Unity 8, will that make Ubuntu 16.04 Unity 8 session as up to date as 16.10, 17.04, or will we have to upgrade to latest? No. The PPA is, maybe I'm wrong. You have to check to see the packages that are in the PPA, but I think the target at the moment is 16.10. I don't know if they also build on 16.04 as well. You'd have to check the PPA. You can see, it has a drop down in every PPA where you can choose Xenial and Yakety. And if you look at Yakety and look at the version numbers of the Unity 8 packages and the build date, and then go and change the drop down to Xenial and look at the packages and the build date, you'll soon see if they correlate. Because usually what will happen is it'll say Unity 8 and then a version string and then tilde or a plus sign and then Xenial PPA or something like that. So it was a particular version number built for Xenial. And similarly for Yakety, it will probably say something like Unity 8, same version number, tilde Yakety PPA or something like that. So right. You can go and investigate that yourself.
It wouldn't surprise me if we support 16.04 in the PPA longer than 16.10, just because it is an LTS release.
Yeah, could be. I haven't looked. I don't have any 16.10 machines, and I don't plan to add PPA on this system. But if you do, Chloe, on a 16.04 system, do let us have your feedback, because I would like to know about that. If it is super rock solid and stable, then I'll probably add it so I can play with Unity 8 on my laptop. Chloe asks.
Next question.
Oh no, is this Chloe or have I missed one?
No, we got one from Seb.
Oh yes.
He just misspelled question. That's why I didn't highlight for you.
Right.
He's asking where I got my shirt from and how long I've had it. So again, Ubuntu user shirt. I got this years ago, probably 7 years ago now, at Scale out in California. There was an Ubuntu user, I think it was Linux Pro Magazine booth there. So that's where I got this. I have no idea if you can get them anywhere anymore. So, collector's item now, just like the magazines.
Chloe asks, what's your favorite music? Oh my gosh. I don't listen to a lot of music. I recently went on a trip with Will Cook, who runs a desktop team, and Stuart Langridge, who are both good friends. And
that was a fun trip.
It was a tour of the nuclear power stations of the UK, and we built a playlist in Spotify of our favourite music to listen while we're going on this road trip. And the amount of music that I listen to has gone up since then, because I listened to all the stuff that they added into the playlist. But we took all of that music and put it on a BQ E4.5 running Ubuntu, and plugged it into the car stereo in Will's car. And while he was driving around for the full 3 days, we just had the music playing off of my BQ phone. The battery lasted for the full 3 days, and it was great. It was a little like jukebox playing music. It was absolutely perfect, But yeah, maybe I'll share the playlist so you can see the terrible music that I like to listen to.
All right, the next question is from Seb. He says, where, as in what country, where is the furthest both of you have traveled away from home? So for Alan, the UK, and for me, Florida. Where did you go to that faraway place, and how long? So I think as far as like actual flight distance, the farthest I've gone was Budapest. That at least certainly seemed like the longest flight I've had. As far as actual straight line distance, it might be Sweden. I'd have to actually get a string and a globe to find that out.
I'm sure there are computer programs that can do that for you. There's electronic string.
Probably. Who needs computers? It's just a fad.
I think the furthest I've ever gone, I don't know if it would be the trips to San Francisco, California. Los Angeles is probably the furthest because I flew into LA, or it might be my honeymoon. We went to the Maldives in 16 years ago, which is just off the coast of India-ish. So that's probably the furthest because we had to stop and refuel the plane, and that's the only time I've ever been anywhere where we've had to stop and refuel the plane and get back on. So I think that's probably the furthest I've ever been, is Maldives.
All right. The next question is from The Best. It says, if the phone switches to snaps, will all the Click apps not be able to get installed anymore? Or in other words, are the Click apps snap compatible? They are not directly compatible. We're looking at the best ways to make that transition for Click apps. We will make it as easy as possible for somebody who's developed the Click app to repackage it as a Snap app. That should be easily doable. As far as automatically converting them or somehow being able, I don't think we're going to try and support clicks as is in a Snap-based thing. There would have to be some kind of conversion to a Snap package for them.
I think I agree. I don't think we're going to do that. I think what's more likely is we'll say, here's how you rebuild your application, which is currently a Click, rebuild that as a Snap, and here's how you do that. And then you republish that to the store, and then that will make it available on Snappy-based systems. I think putting...
Right. And the good thing is that Click packages are already designed to run confined, and they're already designed to be relocatable. And those are the two biggest hurdles for getting existing software packaged as a Snap. So it should be really easy to do. I don't foresee any major problems with that.
What's the next question?
From Seb, what is your favorite package for normal Ubuntu and also your favorite app for Ubuntu Touch, and why for both?
Well, Touch is easy because that's Podbird, because I use it every day. Actually, favorite package for desktop Ubuntu, I would say probably is Shutter, a screenshot app. I use that all the time as well to crop and muck about with screenshots and stuff like that. It's written in Perl. It's quite heavyweight for a Perl application, but it's really good for taking like screenshots of areas of the screen and then just doing basic changes, or putting a big red arrow and pointing to something that you want to highlight, or using a fudge to like rub out your address or your credit card number from a screenshot or something. It's good for that. Shutter is really, really good. I have that open. I mean, I've got an indicator for it, and I've got it open all the time.
I don't really have too much in the way of favorites, especially on the desktop. It's hard to pick one app that I use regularly and say, this is my favorite. They're all, tools that I really would have a hard time going without.
Come, Michael. Everyone has a favorite child. They just don't tell everyone.
Oh, it's my son. No, I'm kidding. I mean, if we go by what do I use the most, or what would I suffer the most if I didn't have, it would be the terminal.
Right.
But it's really hard to say, I'm really excited about the terminal. All right, moving on, because we're almost out of time, and I don't want to answer favorite child questions anymore. Let's see. The best is asking if my phone will not get an update to 1604. Will they still get updates to the current 1504 image? I would not expect that we're going to continue putting out updates to a 1504 image once we have a 1604 image. That would just seem like a waste of manpower at that point.
Yeah, I don't know what the timeline is for when phones are no longer going to get updates. It's going to be at some point. I don't know when that is. We can try and find out that information.
Right. If you have a phone that's not going to be updated, you might want to talk to Marius Gripsgard, Mario Grip on IRC. He runs ubports.com, and his device images, I think, use a newer version of Android than ours do, so he might be able to get a port going on your phone with a newer base more easily than we would.
Yeah.
And of course, anybody who wants to support Marius and his work, he's got a Patreon account that helps pay for his time and also for his devices. He's got a large collection of devices that he's been buying so that he can support them.
And we have an update from D. Shimmer, who says Google says Southern California is farther away from the Maldives. So apparently Southern California is the furthest I've been from home.
There you go.
Cool.
All right. Well, we're out of questions, and we are pretty much out of time also, so that worked out well.
Awesome.
Thanks everybody for your questions. Oh, wait. One last one. See, this is why you shouldn't wait until the last minute. We almost missed it. D. Shimmer, with all the crazy bad press about IoT security, why do you think Ubuntu Core and pushed updates doesn't get more press?
I guess because we haven't done a final release of Snap yet, and there aren't a ton of we don't have images for like every router out there, or router as Mike might say. We don't have images for those devices, so we can't say all these IoT devices in your houses you could replace with Ubuntu Snappy Core right now. In the future, that will be the case, and new devices that come out will have Ubuntu Snappy at their heart, and they will get updates. But right now, that's not the case. I mean, it will, but yeah, watch this space.
Yeah, we talked about Ubuntu Core 16 being in RC2. So when that is finally released as a final release, then you could expect us to make quite a bit of noise around that, and certainly playing off IoT security fears is going to be part of that. But it's not, like you said, it's not something that's going to fix everything once it's out. We have to get it actually onto these devices. But we do certainly have a really good selling point, with updates. If this latest botnet attack could have been prevented by, one company pushing out one update, then the whole thing would have become a non-issue really quickly.
Cool. We wrap up?
Yes, I think we should. To answer Chloe's last question, yes, we know. All right, thank you everybody for all of your questions and for keeping us going for another hour. We look forward to seeing you next time on ubuntuonair.com. You can follow us on YouTube at Ubuntu On Air and on Twitter at Ubuntu On Air to get news and updates and schedules, and also to watch old videos that have been recorded on this account.
Awesome.
All right, thank you everybody. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Mike.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye-bye.